Good afternoon, everyone, and good morning to those of you in the Central Time Zone. My name is Paul Kiwi, and I'd like to welcome you to another edition of Wild Wednesday webinars brought to you by MIPA, OPA, TISPA, PPA Chicago, PPA Wisconsin, UMAP, and PPA Midwest. I'm Paul Kiwi, the Executive Director of MIPA, and I'm delighted to welcome you today. At the end of today's presentation, as you leave, there's a survey. If you complete that and include your PIN number, I'll send that information over to PPAI and you can receive one CAS credit for today's presentation. Also like to remind you that next month we're also early, being into the holidays. Next month's Wild Wednesday webinar will be on December 16. We'll be featuring Jim Sochi, who's the president and owner of Artistic Toy. He's going to talk about how to build your clients' brands through character marketing. Actually, I'll be joining him on that presentation, talking about some of the really big programs that we've been able to put together using plushes and character marketing. And also like to wish everyone a very happy Thanksgiving in the next week coming right up. Today, I've got the great pleasure and honor to introduce our speaker, Dale Limes, MAS. Dale's been a good friend of mine for many years. We've served on several PPAI committees together. And Dale's hung around with a lot of top performers, multi-million-dollar producers. He's learned something about how they do business, and he's going to share that with you today. So, Dale, take it away.
Oh, thank you very, very much. And it's a pleasure to be with all of you today. Thank you for chiming in or getting into this presentation. First of all, I know this is a very, very busy time of the year. Everybody's heavy into the holiday purchasing and closing up the year, trying to get those last numbers in. So, thank you very much for investing your time in this hour. My hope is that over this next hour, you're going to pick up some good ideas and make your time worthwhile and make the presentation worthwhile for getting in today. So thank you very much, and Paul, thanks for the introduction. Hope everybody's had a very wild and successful Wednesday so far, and really a wild and successful year so far in 2015. We're going to talk today about a lot of topics, and we're going to cover a lot of ground in the next hour. So it may take 45 minutes, it may take an hour, I'm not sure. If you have questions, I think you're able to send those in, and Paul will collect those, and we can either hit a couple questions as we go along, or maybe we can hit them at the end if you want. But here are the topics we're going to talk about today. And typically I do this presentation, I've refined it over the last few years. I've done this presentation for many years, updated a little bit, but I do it at PPAI generally each year. I did it a couple weeks ago out in Seattle, and we're going to hit some very relevant topics. Some of it may not be totally groundbreaking for you, but there will be a lot of key areas that I think you'll pick up ideas. And my goal for you today is that you're able to pick up what I like to call a few nuggets that you can put into your business plan for the rest of 2015 and actually heading into 2016 so that you can make next year your very best year ever. But we're going to hit a lot of things that relate to, as Paul mentioned, my experience working with top producers in the industry. And to that end, I'm very fortunate. I've been in the business since 1985. And during my career, I've primarily been with large distributors, only a couple of them. I'm currently Senior Vice President of Sales at Halo. And it's afforded me the opportunity to be able to work side by side with some of the very top producers in our industry. And what I'm sharing with you today is really what I've learned from them. And, some of the strategies, tactics, and actually the way they think as well about business that's a little bit different than how maybe smaller or medium-sized producers might think. So a lot of information. We're going to cover a lot of area today. But again, this is my way of kind of giving back to an industry that's been wonderful to me, just like Paul does so well, and many others. And I look forward to this for the next hour, and I'm glad to have you with us. So we're going to talk about how to prepare your mind and business plan for the rest of 2015 and also into 2016. How to understand how our business is changing and what it means to each of us, and what you need to do about that. How to build a solid business plan that allows you to succeed. One of my observations in this business is that, a lot of people have a good, solid package of business maybe, but many business packages that are put together over time have hit a level where you really can't continue to grow. And so I want to talk a little bit about how you can change that up a little bit, because we all have the same number of hours in a day, days in a week, weeks in a month, and months in a year, obviously. So I want to talk about how, especially it's relevant now heading into 2016, how to kind of switch up your business plan and maybe even your account base a little bit to make 16 very successful. And then the real meat and potatoes, number 4 here, is the top producer tactics and strategies that they use and how they actually think differently. We're going to review some of the marketing tools and relationship strategies that a top producer uses to set themselves apart as well. So as we get going here, I've got 4 questions, and I did this last week or a couple weeks ago in Seattle, and usually I ask for a raise of hands, so if you want to do that, that's fine. I can see you all virtually. But here are the 4 questions, and I think we know the answers to many of these. Did you set a goal for 2015, but maybe fail to be able to track it as you would have liked to? Do you always seem these days to be stuck in reactive mode and not being able to be real proactive? Do the days and weeks seem to fly by too fast in this business? I can tell you, for me personally, it seems like we were at PPI Expo 2 weeks ago, and here we are planning, making air time and everything to get out there again in January. So these years fly by in this business. It's a good thing. It means we're having fun, but time does fly by fast. And do you have a solid marketing plan that you've had in mind or even on paper, but haven't had time to execute it? Typically, when I ask this to an audience, most of the time it's about 80-90% say, yeah, that's me exactly. I can relate to this. So why is that important? Well, those of you that may have seen my presentations in the past, some of these slides are a little redundant, but it's important to go through these. Number one, our industry is so different than other sales industries out there. And one of the main differences is that it's very, very entrepreneurial. So I'm telling you what you already know. Whether you're a distributor owner or whether you're a salesperson that works for a distributor, you know that you really are in charge of you Incorporated. And it's totally different than if you work for IBM or some large company that has Monday morning sales meetings, lays out how many actual calls you have to make and how you're going to be successful. And if you don't hit their metrics on the numbers that they lay out that you have to achieve, then you may not have a job very long. Well, our industry is extremely different, and I love it because it's different. We're very entrepreneurial. Everyone is. So you have to envision your business as a salesperson as you Incorporated. So what does that mean? Well, every business has 3 primary sales functions. One is the president, and the president of the company is the person who has their 1-year, 3-year, 5-year plans looking out to, look at who do we want to be and what do we want to be next year, 3 years from now, and 5 years from now. The sales manager reports to the president, and the sales manager's responsibility is to map out a plan that allows those goals to be hit so that the president and the shareholders of the company are happy with the results. The sales representative then reports to the sales manager and does that every day. In the military, they would call it the grunt functions of getting out there and prospecting, following up with their current clients on projects that are going on, making things happen, bringing the business in. So why is this important? Why do I bring this up? It's very important for you to have a mindset heading into 2016 that you need to fill all of these roles, whether you're a distributor owner or a salesperson, because my observation over the years is that one of the mistakes that salespeople make in this industry is they really follow through with being the sales representative function, but they don't really think of themselves as the sales manager and the president. So as we go through this presentation and you think about planning for the rest of this year and into 2016, I want you to think about, how do you need to be thinking differently to be the president and the sales manager function? One of the key ways to do that is to get your mind ready. Anybody who knows me knows that I am a true believer in what these two books have in common and the philosophy behind both. I usually ask a live audience if they can answer the question of what do these two books have in common. You're not a live audience, you're on the phone, so I'll just tell you. The Secret defines it as the power of attraction, and Wayne Dyer describes it as, he gets a little more philosophical, but it's basically what you visualize, what you see happening in your life, in your business, and all along the way, it naturally happens to you. It kind of goes back to the old saying of, why do good things always happen to good people, and or positive people, and why do bad things happen to pessimistic people? I think it does fall that way. I believe visualization is extremely important, and I would recommend that you get, especially Wayne Dyer's book, but also The Secret. It's a quick half-hour read. Also, I would recommend on Facebook, sign up for being a partner to The Secret on Facebook. It's pretty amazing, just the messages you get every day and how to get your mind right for this. But when you get this whole idea of visualization and understanding the end result, now how does that relate to our business? If you did this correctly in 2015, you would already know at the end of 2015 what your end goal was going to be, and you would have a great chance to achieve it because you're living it. I'm going to define this as we get into the presentation a little further on how this actually breaks down and how you put it into practice. But the first step you need to know is how to visualize it, and as you're heading into 2016, how to actually visualize and plan for the end goal already happening before you even get there. I hope I'm not getting too philosophical, but the whole point here is when you're heading into 2016, what I want you to think about is maybe reading up a little bit on this and understanding the power of getting to that end goal before it gets there. If you do that, then you'll implement your own performance standards that foster success. That's one of the things that will happen from it. You'll also set a natural tone that emphasizes action versus words from the things that you want to achieve in 2016. You'll also be much more proactive because you're living every day towards hitting those goals, and you're going to feel fulfilled and energized by understanding it as well. So I don't want to keep dwelling on goals and numbers and all that because we are going to get into some meat and potatoes here very quickly. But thinking of the visualization process and everything, I ask you this question. On 1/1/2015, did you have a number in mind? Did you completely visualize it? Did you own it? And are you on target today? I can tell you our industry is having a fantastic year. So even if you weren't very savvy at doing these visualization exercises, you may have set out with a plan in mind and wanted to achieve something, and you are achieving it. Others may be off a little bit, but we're going to talk about how to get on track. You still have time. We're in the middle of November, so wherever you are right now in your sales year, there's still time for you to own an end result number at the end of 2015. So I would challenge you to think of the rest of this year and see what you can still achieve. So just a little bit more on goal setting, and then we'll continue on. It is important, especially this time of the year, to think about setting goals and how setting goals are more than just setting a number or setting something on a white paper on what you want to achieve. You've probably heard the acronym, SMART goals, which are specific. You have to outline exactly what it is that you're trying to achieve. And it's not always sales numbers. It could be gross margin. It could be, other things in life. They have to be measurable. You have to have something to measure it by. And there are many tools out there. I'm going to show you one that I'm going to make available to you here via this presentation if you want to use it heading into 2016. Probably most importantly, they have to be attainable. It doesn't make sense to have such a pie-in-the-sky goal that when you visualize it, it's really not attainable. So I'd say go for the gusto, but make your goals attainable. Relevant, and certainly time bound. They have to have an end or start and an end. So, forgive the halo here, but this is our goal sheet, and I'm happy to share this with anybody if they want just a blank copy of it so that you can use it heading into 2016. But we do this every year, and the reason I wanted to show this, one of the great attributes of this goal sheet that our company uses is we actually plug in the numbers from the previous year. And I think you all understand why that's very important. Our business ebbs and flows throughout the year, and it's just as important to be able to look ahead in your year on where you need to be as it is year to date and prior weeks that you've had. So the idea here is you have all of your monthly and weekly results from, let's say, 2015, now heading into 2016, and it allows you to build a business plan to beat those monthly goals every month. But equally as important is to be able to look ahead so that, let's just say we finish February and you know that you're ahead of the game in February because you're seeing that, but in March you're not remembering that you had that $100,000 week in March because of a big order or whatever. If you don't know where the future looks in your goal numbers, then you can have your numbers catch up to you, and then 1 week in particular all of a sudden you're behind because you weren't tracking it forward as well as backward. So if you want to, I don't know, Paul, how we want to do this, we can get into it later, but if anybody wants one of these goal sheets, be happy to send you one. You can clone it for your company if you would like. Happy to do that. Top producers, we'll get into some of the habits and tactics of top producers now and how they think a little bit differently and kind of what makes them tick. That's what you came to this presentation for, so we're going to get into the meat and potatoes now. First of all, top producers always plan for success. I would say a good majority of salespeople, and I don't think I'd offend anybody to say probably the majority of salespeople heading into 2016 probably have the mindset of, I would like to do more in 2016. Here's where I ended up in 2015. I want to do more, and I'm going to work harder to get there. Well, that's really not a goal, and that's really not planning. What top producers are really great at is actually analyzing their entire business and understanding how to build a plan for success. And I want to walk you through a little bit of that because it's so important. As an example, I mentioned a little bit ago that I have seen many business, I guess you'd say business packages that certain salespeople have that really aren't conducive for growth. And one of the reasons could be, as you've all heard the term of your A, B, and C accounts, your A being your largest accounts, your B being your mid-level accounts, and your C being your low-hanging fruit. How much time do you actually have in a day, in a week, in a month, servicing the exact package of business that you have right now? It's important right now in November to analyze that. This is a perfect time of the year to think about your business package, how you need to modify it, and how you should change things up a little bit heading into 2016. I saw something on, I think it was Facebook last night. I'm in an couple of industry group things on Facebook, and one of the people on there was saying, I'm looking to fire about 5 of my clients. What does everybody think about that? Is that a good idea? And he had all the high fives coming back on, absolutely. And I subscribe to that too. This is a good time of the year to scrub your business a little bit. You have those clients who either ask you for 5 samples and never order anything. They have samples come in, they're your ideas, and then they get 3 bids from other people, whatever it might be. It might just be small clients that just aren't worth, low gross margin clients that aren't worth keeping a hold of. So take some time over the next couple of weeks to really analyze your current package of business, and maybe you have somebody else in your company you could turn some low-hanging fruit over to, or some of those pesky clients you don't want to deal with anymore, and give room in your business plan to grow it. So what does it look like? Here's something that many of you who know me have heard me say this many times before, but it's so true. As I said, I worked with a lot of top producers. I also work with a lot of mid-level producers, and I call that in the 250, 200, 300, whatever you'd call mid-level, and much smaller as well. But here's my observation. Salespeople that I work with if they are writing $250,000 a year, and I work with another person that's $1 million a year, there is such a small difference in their actual talent and ability to sell. In other words, if I were in the same appointment with the two people, sometimes that $1 million producer is that much better, but many times that mid-level producer is really just as good and is really a strong presenter and getting to the key points with the buyer. So why do we have this difference? It's really what I call about the aptitude, not the ability. What that means, the aptitude means taking everything you know you should be doing, the things that would organize you to grow your business, and actually putting those measures in place, as opposed to, as I said before, kind of going into the new year saying, I would like to grow, I want to grow, I'm going to work harder. There's a whole different mentality there, and it's all about planning. So think about that, and as we get into some of the key planning areas here, I want to hit some real nuggets for you on what you should plan for in 2016. This is an example of 3 packages of business that I would call conducive for growth and are kind of common in the industry today. Much different than when I started in the business in the mid-'80s. Back then, you would have 300 accounts, a lot of smaller businesses. Today, with corporate accounts really loving our business and understanding the value of promotional marketing, it's not so I wouldn't say it's not difficult, but it's not uncommon to land the $250,000 account, the $500,000 account, whatever it might be. So the number of accounts you need to be a top producer today are much fewer than they were years ago. Again, this is always an interesting slide. People take a hold of. Some want me to send it to them because it just does kind of outline what is a good package of business. You can see on the $1 million producer piece here, it's really about about 48 accounts only to reach the million. And I'm sure some of you on this call that are $1 million producers, you may have 10 accounts that get you to $1 million. The key is it's got to be a manageable number, but you don't want to have all your eggs in one basket if you don't have to. So I hope that makes sense to you. So here's a real important piece that I want you to grasp as well. I kind of touched on it on a few of the slides on wanting to reach goals and so forth, but I read a couple books and studied this a little bit this last year in 2015, and it really resonates with me. And that is, planning success depends on where your true intention is. This is so important heading into 2016. There is a huge difference between goal intentions and implementation intentions. A goal intention is a salesperson that says, here's what I want to do. An implementation intention takes it a whole step further, many steps further, and it says, I will do this at this time, and when I do these things, this is what's going to make me successful. There's a big difference here, and again, it's a little philosophical, but I think you understand where I'm coming from here, that if you've seen yourself in the past of being more of a goal intention type mentality, I really want you to think about how implementation intentions can make such a difference as you head into 2016. And here are some examples. You need to plan time for yourself in order for you to, again, with your time management, to put those things in your business plan that you know are going to make you successful. One of the questions I always ask an audience is, how many spec samples do you do every single week? Can everybody in this crowd tell me that you do a minimum of 5 or 10 spec samples every single week? And I always ask for hands on how many actually do that. Very few come up. And now why is that? Everybody knows that if you put a great thought behind spec samples, and a spec sample, for some of you that may be new, because I had people come up to me after Seattle a couple of weeks ago and say, what exactly is a spec sample? It's either a virtual of the client's logo and graphics and everything on something that you're presenting, or probably more importantly, is an actual physical sample you'll get for a client, branded with a great message and timely for an event or something that they have upcoming. So the key is they sell so well, most of the suppliers give them free to you. Why is that? Because they know your chances of closing that sale are so strong. So with all that in mind, how does it not make sense that everybody should be doing a minimum per week? The way to do that is to put an implementation intention in there and put it in your schedule. So what I'm suggesting here is you say Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock or whatever your prime time might be for this. You have a space in your office with your client files, your artwork, all of those kind of things, and you're going to shut off the phone, the computer, everything for that hour, and that's your spec sample time, and you're going to plan for that. If you think that's truly going to grow your business because you haven't been doing it in the past, I'm saying schedule your time heading into 2016 and do it. Other examples, research time for new prospects, Wednesday at 3 o'clock. These are things you can put on your Outlook calendar so that you have a day and a week that's planned with a lot of activity with your existing clients. Obviously, I know we're all busy, but if you don't plan some of these things that are going to proactively increase your chances for success, you're probably going to go through a year wishing you would have done some of these things, but not actually doing them. Reviewing your top client activity, the 25th of each month as an example. Maybe putting together an e-newsletter, which there are several in the industry that you can do. A lot of different proactive things. I think you get the message here. Enough on that. I beat that horse, but I think you get how an implementation process is much different than a goal process. So let's get into a little bit more of the meat and potatoes here. Top producers in our industry, they really understand how our business is changing, and they analyze that quite a bit. They read articles, they listen to their customers. So what is happening right now? What is changing in our industry that we all need to know about and react to? We're definitely living in a more reactive environment, and that's a good thing and a bad thing. It's great to be able to be reactive because your clients are calling saying, hey, I need some of this or I need some of that, and you research it and you get back to them. My guess is that's how most of you spend most of your time. However, we need to compartmentalize that and have time to think proactive, not only for your existing accounts, but also for new prospects that you have. If you're not thinking proactive, then your clients over time will take you for granted a little bit more because you're reacting well to their business, but they've got somebody else pretty strong that's coming in there that are very proactive, thinking in terms of their marketing needs. Clients know our business more than ever. We need to absolutely know theirs. And there are many ways to do that, and I'll just throw one out here that I hope everybody on this call will do, and that is to follow through with Google Alerts. I don't know how many of you are using Google Alerts or are familiar with them, but if you take your top accounts and you go on Google and just Google Alerts, and it'll take you right to the site. All you do is you put in a Google Internet search for keywords that you want to. Every time it comes up, you're gonna be informed, and it's going to send you a Google Alert information. So let's just say one of your top accounts is Ford Motor Company. If you have a Google Alert for Ford Motor Company or a division of it or whatever, anytime news comes out on the internet about Ford, you're going to be alerted to that. And it could work well with your mid-size accounts too. It keeps you engaged with your clients and learning about what's happening within their business, and they don't even know you're doing it. But when you come to them with information they didn't know you should know, or that is very relevant, that just happened or just came out, an event they have coming up, that's how Google Alerts can make you an extension of the marketing team, which is so vitally important today. Most salespeople today are getting far too comfortable with their relationships. I guarantee the top producers in the industry certainly are not. Every day I'm hearing about business relationships that are lost when it's been a long-time customer and they've been friends with Sally forever, and how did this ever happen? I'll tell you how it's happening. Sometimes it's a position changeover, but many times it's, again, that we're being reactive and that they're not seeing the added value from coming in with the new ideas, and eventually you chip away, somebody else is, and then you're getting in there. Now, I hope all of you are doing the same thing on relationships that some of your top competitors have with your best accounts, because you can outwork them and outthink them to win over those friendly relationships that they may have. We've all heard people buy from people they trust and like. I think that's still true to an extent, but I would not fully rely on that in today's marketplace. Setting yourself apart from the competition is more important than ever. We could spend a whole afternoon on that, but there are many ways to have your value proposition stated correctly, succinctly to what you deliver, and you need to be really, really good at that. This is a good time of the year to review it. It all starts with educating clients. Today, and this is something I want you to really think about, it's so true. We've studied this at our company. Today, clients do not want to be sold to. They want to be educated into a decision. I think that all makes sense. I think that makes sense to all of you. We call it education-based marketing, and it's so true. Think of when you go into a car dealership today. You've already done the research. You know kind of what's going on before you get there. So it used to be you could be sold, but now we're educating ourselves on consumer purchases we're making, and clients today want you to educate them into an informed buy rather than selling to them. Love to have a whole other presentation another time on education-based selling. It's very powerful. So client diagnosis, relationship diagnosis, very quickly I'll move through here. Do clients still buy from those they trust and like? I think I just hit that a minute ago. Partly, but need to be looking past that. It's easy to assume a client's loyalty and then lose it unexpectedly. So protect the client relationships that you have out there and keep your value proposition very fresh. There are a lot of ways to really find out how you are in your relationship with your client at any one time. I know many of you take your clients out to lunch and say, how am I doing? Can I be doing anything better? When you're feeding them, they're going to give you a lot of positive reinforcement. But one of the things I would really, really recommend, and again, this is another document that I'm happy to send to anybody. We'll let Paul or MIPA collect emails or whatever if anybody wants this information. But survey your clients. This is the perfect time of the year to do a formal client survey. Why is this important and how is it different? We already know that you ask your clients how you're doing, or at least I hope you do. They will give you great feedback if you do a formal survey. And they see it as just like when you get a survey from a hotel. If you're at the front desk at the hotel and they say, how is your stay going? You say, oh, everything's great. Okay, assuming that it is. But when they send you a survey after you've had the stay, you don't mind actually going over everything in detail that was good, bad, and different, and it helps them judge what they need to do next time around. It's the same thing for us. Your clients will be brutally honest on a formal client survey. We send these out in the form of a SurveyMonkey. I'm sure you're probably all familiar with that tool. It's an easy electronic survey. But the great things about this is it asks questions, for instance, how do you like to be communicated with? That is so important today. Some clients now, especially the younger ones, they would rather have you text them than send them an email. Some clients and customers that you have don't want you stopping in to see them, but they put up with it because you're friends. They will tell you these things on this survey if you just ask. Another question on here is how much of your total promotional product spend am I actually getting? They'll be honest with you about that. And so it's a great time to do a survey, and the worst thing that can happen from a survey is the best thing that can happen from other things that you might consider doing. And that is they get the survey, they didn't fill it out, but they certainly respect the fact that you took the time to put out a formal survey and ask them for their input. So even those that don't send it back, and you should get a pretty good return rate, but even those that don't send it back, they're going to certainly appreciate the thought and the professionalism that goes behind this measure. So that's one of my nuggets. I would recommend everybody does that. So what else? What are the things that I would call whether it's the David Letterman Top 10 or whatever it might be, that top producers do? What are their habits that they follow based on my observations that other people don't follow that maybe aren't top producers? Number one, or maybe not number one, I'll just kind of move down. These are in no particular order. But top producers acquire accounts strategically. They're expert researchers. I see top producers as understanding who they want to go after, and many times it ties into having a niche that they are very comfortable with, and so they become experts at researching everybody within that niche. They have a lot of information. They do Google alerts, and they read in their geographic area what's going on with top accounts in the area, and they work strategically to acquire them. So that's kind of who they go after, but they also have a strategy, a well laid out strategy on how to go after each one of those accounts. That means marketing tools. It could be a 3-step or 5-step approach to actually get the account's attention, the prospect's attention. Going to give you cliches you've all heard before, but we all know, it takes, what is it, Paul, 9 times to get a client or a prospect's attention, and everybody stops at 5. That may not be the right numbers, but you get the idea. Top producers understand that if you really want to go after a top business, you have to keep on it and go after it. They understand the difference clearly between product selling and education-based selling. I think that goes without saying, but again, think about educating your client, and it's not about the product, it's about the solutions. I mentioned this in number 10 a little bit, but find a niche or niches and become an expert at it. One way to accentuate this is if you're an expert, let's say in the medical arena, then why not have your business cards or a number of your business cards say medical marketing specialist? Or if you're strong with law firms, legal firm specialist, as it relates to promotional marketing. If I'm one of the companies in those niches and I find that you're a specialist in our area because you are, or you have the verbiage to back it up because you know the industry well, then go ahead and use that niche. Make up some business cards. That'll be the best $15 you've ever spent. Their line of questioning with clients is so different. What if questions really rule? And I've got another slide on this, so I'm going to dive into the what if questions and how powerful they are in just a minute. They understand how to create and protect their margins. This is so important. I'm telling you what you already know, but it's not about the revenue you write. It's all about the margins. And our industry average is getting up there. We're starting to find ways to increase margin. One way to increase your margins is value-added services that you provide that other people aren't quoting on. But there are a lot of ways to increase margins. Again, another topic for another day, but top producers don't give the farm away. They're not the low-ball producers. They keep their margins up there. They know their client, have deeper relationships, and again, to the one mouth, two ears scenario, they really listen to their clients. That's what's so important. They understand the importance of value-added service. I mentioned that a minute ago. This kind of ties into your relationship with your client. Do they trust you and like you, and that's why they're buying from you? You need to really continue to revamp your value-added service, whatever that might mean. One example might be every apparel item, every embroidery item that you do for a client, always order an additional item to have embroidered with the job that you have going to the client. Why is that simple and easy to do? You're doing polo shirts for a client, and it's for all their salespeople and staff going to a national sales meeting. Why not also embroider a vest with the same thing that happens to be in your key buyer's size, and take that in, say, I was thinking of the staff in the company, so while I did your polo shirts, I also did a vest to accompany that because I thought this might be a little bit different, something that the staff could stand out from everybody else, or something of that nature. Think of ways like that you can do it, but I would do that on every single embroidery order, maybe a couple different items. It's only going to cost you the net cost of the item. The embroiderer is going to do it for nothing. They organize their top suppliers and understand how to utilize the marketing departments. Folks, if you're in a small distributorship and don't have a large marketing department, there are marketing departments available to you out there all across the nation in the form of the suppliers. And, your top suppliers are more than happy to have you work directly with some of the marketing coordinators in the marketing departments of these top suppliers in order to roll out presentations and things on their line, of course, but things that can really help you look more professional and be more professional. So utilize those. Learn how to utilize them. They don't sell to their clients. Obviously, top producers become a very, very valuable part of the team. They're an extension of the marketing team. They tell their clients, I want to be the very best unpaid employee you've ever had. You're not going to pay me a salary, but I consider myself an employee because I'm going to bring value to the business. You don't have to pay me for it. I'm only going to be rewarded when one of my great ideas I bring in hits home with you. And of course, lastly, have to mention they set goals, have a winning attitude, and let nothing stand in their way. So, that's kind of how I see top producers as far as their functionality and how they think, some of the things that hopefully you can put into your business plan. But, in order to do the research, and we talked about doing the Google alerts, researching businesses in your area. There are so many ways that you can research today. You should spend almost as much time researching in your idle time as anything else because you can find out so much. And I love what Jack Welch says about that. There are only two sources of competitive advantage in the marketplace: the ability to learn more about customers faster than the competition, and the ability to turn that learning into action faster than the competition. That really hits home with me because it's so easy in today's marketplace through Hoovers, through just Google, the internet. There is a site you can go to that is called in the library. It's called the Advertiser's Red Book, but it's the Standard Directory of Advertising. You might have to Google that to actually get to it. But it actually gives you the stats on how much companies that you want to call on are actually spending on promotional merchandise and incentives in a year. I mean, what more information could you want than that? So, there are ways to find your best prospects out there and how to go after them. But it's all about research and staying ahead of the game. All right, backing up, I mentioned in the top 10 that what-if questions are so important. It's the professionalism that this strategy implores between you and your customer, and it's getting you to the end result quicker by understanding how this works. And this is something, we've all learned through selling in this industry. It's not about the products. It's not about, I can have this to you in 2 weeks. Sometimes it is. But it's more about understanding your client, understanding what is upcoming in your client's business, and understanding how you can react to that and turn it into something that really works for them and really works for you because it's going to make you a lot of money. So there are two levels of questions. There are the first level questions and second level questions. First level question examples, if you're in front of a prospect or customer, would be, Mr. Smith, what is the greatest challenge facing your companies at this time? What is your marketing team focused on heading into 2016? What's new? What's different? What distinct advantages or disadvantages do you have versus your top competitors out in the marketplace? So these are leading questions that I call first level questions, but understand how the what-if strategy really works. And this is after they give you some feedback and answers to your first level questions. You're still in the dialogue. What if we could develop a program that would increase your new account acquisition win percentage by 50%? What if we could design a program that will provide an incentive for your customers to buy more from you and less from your competition? If these what-if questions are tied into some of the feedback they already gave to you, and it's very easy to do that. You think of what they gave you and you put it back as a what-if. Because remember, we're a solution-based industry, correct? So if you use the what-if strategy, and how are they ever going to say, well, heck no, I wouldn't be interested if you could come up with a plan like that. This is the fun part of our business. You all know that. So once they answer these questions, it's really going back to the drawing board, back in your office, just like an ad agency would, and say, okay, this is what they need to accomplish. They said if I can come up with a strategy to help them with that, it's worth big bucks to them. So then it's your job to do that. And this is what top producers do every day. It's finding out how to get those wins and going after them. So again, the next part I just want to touch on is marketing. A lot of what we talked about so far is sales strategy, questioning, some tactics and strategies to put into your business plan, but it can't be successful until you have an actual marketing plan that is mapped out through the next several months. And I believe in doing it in a 3 to 6 month plan in advance. At our company, we call it a MAP, which is a marketing activity planner. And basically what it is if you have a marketing department or don't have a marketing department, there are many industry tools that can complement what other larger distributors' marketing departments might have available. I mentioned there are newsletters and things like that educate your clients that are available out there for a fee. But the key is, in order to stay ahead of the game with your clients, you need to map out a marketing plan that gives you the proactive touches that you need for your clients, whether that's virtual touches on e-blasts that go out, whether it's direct mail, whatever it might be. But you need to plan those things out, especially heading into 2016, that will drive more business. And part of the map could be the X number of spec samples you're going to do for X number of clients in a period of time. And then, so after you kind of map out what your marketing activity is, you want to build it into an actual marketing activity planner. And here's an example. So, you can plug in the information, but it's a calendared event planner that puts your marketing strategies that you want to put together so that it can keep you on track. And if you're fortunate enough to, be a top producer and have an assistant in the office, this is a great job for one of the admin people in your office to take on, where you're planning it with them and they're just executing the plan, would be how I would recommend it. Just some different ways to get client acquisition tools, or multi-platform ways to do it. There are vertical market promotions that you can get in the industry, electronic pieces that can go out. There are referral programs that you can come up with, or they're out there. It's fun. A lot of people, salespeople know, Sales 101 is always ask for referrals. But a lot of times salespeople are a little skittish on having that conversation. Joe, I've been calling on you a long time. I would greatly appreciate if you value my service that you might recommend me to a couple other business friends that you might have, and I would reward you some way for that. Might be a little awkward for some, it's not at all. But if it is a little awkward for you, why not put together a formal reward program, a referral reward program, and hand it to them in the form of a flyer. We used to do one called It's About Time, and it was with the Swiss Army watch, where it basically said, it's about time that I, ask you to maybe help me with some referrals. If you do refer me to one of your business friends that purchases, then I'm going to reward you and thank you with a very nice Swiss Army watch that you see here in this flyer. A lot of different things you can do there, but you get the message. Direct mail is another way, and there are many, again, industry organs out there that can help you with direct mail. So you map your success along with the sales strategies that you put together for 2016. So you tie sales and marketing together to build that business plan for 2016, and you're going to be doing the things that I have seen top producers do and what makes them tick. Some other kind of tips heading into the end of 2015 and 2016. If you're not already and you feel like you're in a little bit of a rut, need something to kind of jumpstart your business, join a network or lead group. They're out there in every city. There are some good ones and some not so good ones. But seek those out. The more people you talk to, every business buys promotional products out there. So everybody you talk to that might be an influencer, whether they're a friend of somebody or whether they're directly involved in a business, that's where these network and lead groups can come together. Embrace technology. Any of the webinars that come up that have to do with industry technology, or if you happen to be going to Orlando or PPAI Expo in Las Vegas and you're going to spend time on the floor, don't just go into supplier booths. Usually there's one section that's dedicated to technology. Learn what's available out there. There are so many new advances every day, even within the actual suppliers and the things that the suppliers provide technology-wise for you. You have to embrace it. I know many salespeople that I've worked with for years. I'm 57, and many that started with me back in the 80s. I've seen the business pass them by, and it's very unfortunate. I've done my best to keep up with as much technology as I can. Certainly the young guns out there are ahead of me, but enough to be dangerous and understand what's going on. You really need to do that. Otherwise, those things are going to pass you by. Ask for referrals always. Do something formal if you need to. Get involved in trade shows and speaking opportunities. It's a great way to kind of get out of your comfort zone, make you feel good, and talk about the value proposition of our industry and what our industry can do for businesses in general. You talk about our industry rather than yourself, and the values of the six senses and how our industry touches every sense, and how we can help them every which way. They're going to talk to you about how to do that and have business with them afterwards. Do a minimum of 5 or 10 spec samples every single week. If you take one nugget away from this, do that one. That will increase your business for sure in 2016. Organize your office heading into 2016 so that it is streamlined for success. And what I mean by that is, if you're going to organize and schedule time with yourself in your office to do some of these things like spec samples and researching businesses you want to go after, those kind of things, organize spots in your office for those tasks. So you have your spec sample area, you have your Dream 25 businesses you want to go after, all in file folders or else in an electric file, so that when you go to do that exercise at 10 o'clock on Tuesday morning, you have everything right there. So organize it so that you have a good system of business. As I mentioned, add an embroidery, another item to embroidery. Market You Incorporated very creatively. This is a great time of the year to do a couple things. One is, listen to your voicemail right now. If you were calling you, are you the most professional person that your client could ever call when they get your message? When was the last time you really checked your voice recording to see how great it is? Think about that and change it up heading into the new year. Same thing with all of your marketing materials and what you're providing to your clients, both electronically in the mail and verbally. What are you doing really creatively? Depart from yourself. Think third party. Look at yourself from a different perspective and say, what else could I be doing other than what I'm doing today creatively? Provide value-added service to every client, and build a prospecting plan heading into the new year that just can't fail, and stick with it. Couple priorities that you can look at doing in the fourth quarter. I really like the idea of finding a success partner or mentor that is not with your current company, and I'm assuming I'm talking to salespeople now, that might be having the same values or growth initiatives that you have heading into 2016. It could be somebody you meet at a show. And use that person in a way that they're the mentor to you and you're the mentor to them. So the idea would be you'd have weekly calls. Let's say it's on a Friday afternoon, and you would say, all right, what are you going to achieve next week? What are the 5 things you're committing to do? This gets back to that visualizing, laying out a plan, and making sure you follow through with the plan. Do it with a success partner who has the same goals as you, another salesperson. It's totally different than if you're using a management person. And then you spot check each person or the next week and make sure that you're achieving what you set out to achieve, and they are as well. Set your final goals and lay out a plan to achieve them. We've talked about that enough. Spend necessary time on prospecting. Has to be done. If you are really being honest with yourself, I think you would agree 90% of your time is being reactive today. Figure out a way that you can make sure you have 30% of your time that's available to be proactive. Organize your office and make a weekly business plan each week. Research your Dream 25 prospects heading into 2016. This is a great time to look at what's in front of you and who you want to go after. I don't care if they've told you already that they are fully entrenched with XYZ company and they've been good friends for 20 years. Something's going to change at some point in time. And if you want them in your Dream 25, put them in there, go after them, put a business plan together, and you will get them. One suggestion I would give you is look at businesses heading into 2016 that are, significant businesses in your geographic area, or maybe not, that are having a milestone anniversary during 2016. Think about that. You can do research right now, whether you do it in a library, you Google it, whatever. You can Google businesses in Detroit that are having anniversary years or startup years for businesses in Detroit. Whatever you might Google, you're going to hit on a lot of information where you're going to find out that X number of companies are having a 10-year, 25-year, 50-year anniversary that maybe they haven't even thought about so much yet. Here we are, middle of November. How great would it be for you to make a warm call to those businesses and say, look, you got this big anniversary coming up. I want to help you with that. So I kind of always leave with a little fun. You always do what you've always done. You'll always get what you've always got. That's my favorite saying. And my goal for you is that hopefully you got some of the key nuggets out of this. I know there weren't revolutionary things because I don't believe there are revolutionary new things that can change the world. It's more of doing what you know you need to do to be successful and sticking with it and making it work for you. But it is true. I will tell you that if you go into 2016 with the mindset of, again, it's always done what you always get what you always got. If you kind of limp into the new year saying, this is what I want to achieve, you're probably not going to achieve a whole lot more. But if you go in with that different mindset, with conviction, and you say, here's my map to get there, and come hell or high water, I'm not going to quit until my 12/31/2016 goal is hit, and that's this number. You'll visualize it, and it will happen because you already made it happen before 12/31/16 gets there. So with that, man, I'm good. It's 3 minutes before the bottom of the hour, so I didn't leave much time for questions, Paul, but I do want to thank all of you for your time and wish you a very happy Thanksgiving. If there are questions, Paul, I'll be happy to take them.
Wow. Thanks, Dale. That was incredible. There was a ton of great nuggets in there. And everyone, the presentation is available for download. There's a link at the top of the chat box where you can find that. If you want any of the items that Dale referenced, you can send me an email, paul@mipa.org. Just as easy as it sounds, paul@mipa.org. And I'll make sure that I send those over to Dale and he gets them to you. I especially liked slide number 19. I'm laughing because I started writing down slide numbers of what one, but great top 10 list. As you mentioned, some of it you may have heard before, but God darn it, implement, and you're really going to see great results from that. Once again, if you'd like to get CAS credits for today's presentation, make sure that you fill out the survey at the end of as you leave the webinar, and there's a place there for your PIN number. If you don't have it and you're not a member of MIPA, your local regional executive director can get you that PIN number. I'll submit it, but I can't promise that you'll get credit. If you're from the MIPA organization or from Michigan, I can look up your PIN number and include it with that. So Dale, incredible presentation. Once again, thank you. Everyone, mark down December 16. We've got another good one coming up on character marketing, probably an area you haven't thought of before, but those are some good, big potential orders that you can get with that. If there's no other questions, I'm going to close it off. I have been recording this, and in about an hour to an hour and a half, I'll get the recording back from our webinar producer, and I will be posting that on MIPA's Facebook page and also on MIPA's website under Wild Wednesday Webinars. We have recordings of all of these. So once again, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dale. This was incredible, and we'll see you next month for another Wild Wednesday webinar.